Scientists are shocked by a picture from Mars that has caused debate and excitement and has changed everything we thought we knew about the red planet. This isn't just another old picture. It's a piece of a very big cosmic puzzle. The Mars rover Perseverance has found intriguing clues that make scientists wonder if life used to grow in this area deep in Jezero crater. There are real signs and rocks on Mars that suggest life may have lived there in the past. This is not a far-off sci-fi fantasy. What does this mean for how we think about the world and how we plan to explore it in the future? Jezero crater isn't like other places on Mars. It's an interesting place with a long geological history that may hold clues about Mars's watery past and even life itself. There was a big reason why the Perseverance rover was sent to this spot, to look for signs of life. It has cutting-edge technology that lets us look at Mars' surface in ways we've never been able to do before. We can look at it at the molecular level to find signs of primitive life that lived a long time ago. Now tell me why this crater is so important and how experts think it might hold the answers we've been looking for. Before we talk about the new finds, let's look at the big picture. Why do we care so much about Mars? The barren, rusty scenery of Mars is very different from Earth, which is full of life. What's the big deal with our dusty neighbor? Well, experts have thought for a long time that Mars wasn't always like this. Many people think that Mars used to have rivers, lakes, and maybe even an ocean. To put it simply, it might not have been that different from Earth. If Mars used to have water, there's a good chance that there was life there too. It also means that life might not be as rare in the universe as we thought if it did start there. Mars might help us figure out if Earth is the only world with life, or if it is just one example of many. Now let's look at Perseverance, NASA's most advanced robot so far. Perseverance is a spacecraft that will be launched in July 2020 and land on Mars in February 2021. It will have high-tech tools on board that are meant to look for signs of life on Mars in the past. The rover can get very close to rocks and soil and pick up chemical fingerprints that people can't see. It landed in Jezero crater because scientists think it used to be home to a big lake and a river delta, which would have been perfect for tiny life to grow and stay alive. If there were ever microbes on Mars, this crater would be a great place to find fossils of them. When Perseverance made a huge discovery, organic chemicals and rocks from Mars, everyone was very excited. Organic chemicals are what make life possible. They are made up of carbon and other elements that living things need to stay alive. What was found doesn't prove that there was life on Mars, but it does show that the planet may have had the right conditions for life at some point. Imagine finding a footprint in the sand that is only half covered. It's possible that someone went there, or it's just a strange shape. These organic chemicals leave a mark on Mars that suggests it may have had life in the past. It looks like Mars may have had some interesting science going on in the past because these molecules were not just any organic ones. The rocks that have these biological molecules were made by water and are called sedimentary rocks. On Earth, these rocks are known to hold fossils and other remains of long-dead creatures. It's like a mud pit that dried up and caught any living things that were in it at the time. This means that if microbes lived in the ancient lakes on Mars, their bodies might still be there, stuck in these rocks and ready to be found. Researchers are thrilled at the thought of even finding tiny fossils on Mars, even though it's a long shot. If Mars was a good place for life to exist, what happened to it? Why is it a frozen, empty wasteland now? Mars doesn't have a magnetic field to protect it like Earth does, so over time, strong solar winds blew away its atmosphere. Mars used to have water, but without an atmosphere to keep it warm, the water either froze or drained, leaving behind a cold desert. By looking at rocks that have been worn down over billions of years, persistence is helping scientists figure out how this change happened. These rocks can tell us about Mars' past temperature, showing us how the planet went from being a possible oasis to a desert. Clay and sulfate salts are two of the most exciting signs that water used to be on Mars. On Earth, these minerals form in places with lots of water, and they're great at keeping living matter safe. They store clues about Mars' past like natural time boxes. These rocks were found by Perseverance in Jezero crater, which is a strong sign that Mars used to be much wetter and maybe even full of microbes. Microbes may have loved living in the lakebed of the crater a long time ago, and there are still signs of this watery past in the rocks of Mars. The thought that Mars may have had life in the past, but now doesn't shows how fragile life can be. It's a story that should teach us about how important it is to protect the fragile ecosystems on Earth. Mars is an example of what can happen to a world when it loses its water and atmosphere. It turns into a barren wasteland. As we learn more about Mars' past, we're not only learning about the planet itself, but also about what it takes for life to live and thrive. The difference between Earth and Mars makes us worry about the future of our own world. The question of whether there is still life on Mars gets more important with each new finding. If there was life on Mars in the past, could there still be some kind of life there now? Maybe very deep underground or in the ice caps of the poles. Scientists are looking for signs of microbes, which might be able to live in hard conditions away from the harsh environment on the surface. The search for life isn't just a scientific question. It's also a way to find out if we're really the only ones in the world. What if there was life on Mars in the past? It would mean that there is probably a lot more life in the universe than we thought. Perseverance is more than just a robot that explores. It also gathers things. It's collecting pieces of rock from Mars, putting them in tubes, and placing them on the surface so that another mission can bring them back to Earth. Scientists will be able to do tests that they can't do with a rover when they look at these rocks on Earth, which is why this sample return trip is so important. If these samples have skeletons or other proof of life from the past, it would be the proof we've been looking for. It's a huge job that might change everything we know about the universe's life. People are very interested in what Perseverance has found, and for good reason. It's exciting to think that Mars might have once been home to tiny living things, that our neighboring world might have been rich with life billions of years ago. Not only scientists are excited. Around the world, people are watching. Kids are thinking of being astronauts, and every new news from Mars is making social media go crazy. People are interested in Mars not only because of the past, but also because of the future. Mars might be able to support life again if it has in the past. Learning about Mars' past could be important for future exploration and even settlement of the world by humans. Mars gives us a one-of-a-kind chance to learn about how fragile planetary settings can be. Its change from a world that might be livable to a barren wasteland is a lesson for us here on Earth. The temperature and ecosystem of Earth are very fragile. Knowing how Mars lost its water and atmosphere could help us keep ours safe. Mars is a stark reminder of what can happen if we don't take care of our planet. It's a warning from a world that may have been a lot like Earth in the past. The discoveries made by Perseverance are also important because they show that life may not only be on Earth. If life started on Mars, it could mean that life is not a miraculous event but a normal result of the way things are there. This means that life might be possible on other worlds and moons in our solar system, like Europa or Enceladus, which have oceans below the surface. Now the search for life beyond Earth seems more likely, and the universe seems a little less empty. The study of Mars by humans could lead to even bigger trips. If we can stay alive on Mars, we might be able to go even further and explore moons, planets, and other places. It's easy enough to get to Mars, but hard enough to push the limits of our technology. This makes it the right place to practice for missions to deep space. Future explorers will find the information that Perseverance is getting now very useful. It will help them figure out how to live and work in Mars' harsh environment. Perseverance isn't just a rover. It's a detective who is slowly but surely figuring out what's going on Mars. With tools like the Sherlock instrument, which uses ultraviolet lasers to find complex organic molecules, it can find signs of old life that would not have been seen otherwise. For every picture it sends back, we learn something new about Mars. A search for the most important questions about life in the universe, not just a scientific project. We are getting closer to the age-old question, are we alone in the universe? With each new thing we find on Mars. The results of Perseverance are not just for experts, they are for everyone. They tell us that we live in a huge, complicated universe and that our knowledge of it is still very limited. As we learn more about Mars, we have to face the idea that life might not only exist on Earth, and that we may be a small part of a much bigger cosmic fabric. Mars is now a dusty desert, but it has signs of being wet and warm in the past. The Perseverance project is just the start of a journey that could last for years or even decades. Every new find or hint adds to the story of Mars's past and our own future in space. As we learn more about this strange planet, Mars, we are told that the story of both life and Mars is far from over. Our search for information about Mars is just starting. If we keep looking, who knows what we might find? Mars is a bright spot in the night sky that makes us feel like anything is possible. The things that Perseverance found aren't just about Mars. They're also about us, our place in the world, and our never-ending search for answers. Mars might have the answers to questions people have had for hundreds of years, and every new piece of information we get helps us learn more about how we came to be in the universe. We're all on the same trip, which shows how curious and strong people are. As Perseverance continues its task, we will watch, wait, and wonder. Are we really by ourselves? Time will tell, but one thing is for sure. Mars's story is just getting started, and we're all a part of it. What do you think? Could there have been life on Mars in the past? If so, what does that mean for our future in space? Leave a message below and let us know. If you're as excited about the universe's mysteries as we are, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing discoveries.